Hello and welcome, Just a Family, to giving you something to talk about live TV. I am your host, Melissa Krechler. I am also an identity coach and spiritual teacher. This episode today is being sponsored by a Phoenix Identity who helps you throw out all your trash, set it on fire, reclaim your identity, and create a life that you are in control of, that you love. And that's what we're talking about today. So if you enjoy the show, please like, follow, subscribe, and check us out on our website, www.justalivetv.com. And if you would like to be a guest of the show, if you want a featured topic, or if you'd like to sponsor the show, please reach out to us again at justalivetv.com. Today's show is all about taking control of your life. And that is a huge passion topic of mine. And I always say that because every show is passionate to me because it has to be. Otherwise, we're not going to do the episode. So that's what we're talking about today. And my guest host today is Sydney Reid. And I spelled your name correctly today. And I know I didn't at the beginning of the week. We are going to be talking about that. So Sydney, why don't you introduce yourself?
Wonderful. Thank you, Melissa. So yeah, I'm Sydney Reid. I'm based in Edmonton, so just a couple provinces over from Melissa there. I've been in the media, marketing, and digital space for the last about 8 years, coming up on 10 years now. Pretty quick. It's blowing my mind that that's the case. But yeah, I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything when it comes to media, from radio to television, and now I sit behind the camera, so to speak, and do a little bit more of that marketing and helping with local businesses find their voice and get that brand out to the community.
So if you don't mind, why are you in the career that you're in? What do you love about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the middle kid of 3 girls. Like I was only recently diagnosed with ADHD, which kind of was this light bulb moment for me of like, yes, this connects some of those dots. But I'm the middle of 3 girls. We come from a very loud, rambunctious Ukrainian family. So yeah, always just kind of surrounded by conversation and stories. And at a very young age, I recall even like back when we had landlines and everything like that. But it was when the landline switched over from the corded to the wireless receivers, and I could take that wireless phone and take it up to my bedroom and host a radio show from my boom box and everything for my mom when I was homeschooling. And very quickly, just kind of being surrounded by the arts and everything, I realized that, yeah, radio and broadcast and that medium is storytelling essentially. And that was my passion. I very quickly started to kind of love doing those community involvement, doing interviews with the small radio stations I was on, reaching out to community members, because similar to Melissa, my passion is helping other people kind of express their passion. I love being able to come in and be like, okay, this is your passion project. Let's share it with everyone else, whether that's helping them with advertising or hosting a community interview and a community event and doing the outreach that way. But I've always said that my goal is to be able to give a platform to those people and their passion, and they just get to share it with me and I get to share it with everyone else.
Self-expression is ridiculously important. We are all, and again, it's spring break here, so please ignore my daughter if anybody's listening or squeal in the background. Self-expression is so important because we are unique identities. We all have unique passions and unique self-expression. And when we're not expressing ourselves the way we want to express, that's when our passions become dull. That's when our passions become non-existent. And you've experienced that, right? Which is why one of the reasons why we're talking about taking control of your life is because at one point you lost that control and created, your passions became dull and lifeless because of other people having control over your life. So let's talk about that. What is your experience? What would you like to share about your experience?
Yeah, like I used to describe it as like I lost my spark. I lost my hope in the industry. Like radio and TV, digital, it's all very ever changing. Like especially you look at the digital space. Facebook's now Meta. There's constant evolving. And so it's a very fast-paced, very competitive space. And I knew that going in. And I just had this focus of I have to go, and I have to make myself successful. And I was so focused on, I need to find this success, that I forgot to focus on the day-to-day, the parts that I enjoyed about my job. I stopped enjoying it for the most part. And I worked my way up the ladder, and very quickly I realized that me necessarily being in a management or one of those higher kind of positions was not what I needed. It's not who I am as a personality. I'm not someone who necessarily wants to manage people. I like working on independent projects. I like working with my independent clients. And I like doing that kind of, some may say it's a little chaotic. We're bouncing back and forth constantly. It depends on what project or campaign is on the books that week. But for me, that's what I thrived on. And then working my way up and trying to find that quote unquote success, I honestly, I felt depressed, and I fell into a really bad depressive state. And I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing anymore. And I lost that passion of helping other people share their passions. I focused on day in, day out. I didn't really care about much of anything else. I didn't go out and do the community events anymore. And I just completely lost all hope in myself more than anything else to find that love of the industry again. It's that old cliche, if you love what you do, you're never working a day in your life. And it was that transition from I'm not working to, oh my God, this is like a ball and chain every single day. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. So you shared a couple interesting topics about your life and losing yourself in those topics. And you said for the first 30 plus years, or just under 30 years, you lived for one goal. And that was for an end result that you knew was coming. Can you tell us about that? If you feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely something I haven't necessarily talked about very publicly up until only the last couple of years, when I've started having more conversations with friends and even family members, and realizing that, like, oh, just because this was my story leading up to this feeling and this experience doesn't mean other people don't go through the same feeling and experience. But for me, with my anxiety and undiagnosed ADHD, it was, what I've now learned are those depressive negative thoughts and those kind of internal, just those dark moments when, for the longest time, like, I was sure, like, I'm going to die in my 30s. I'm not going to make it till my 40th birthday. I've got to essentially build a legacy in 30 years for myself and have a family, have a successful career, have savings for that family, and do all these cliche young adult checklist items in order to be successful. And I went so hard that I got into a position with a company that wasn't necessarily the best placement for me. I got into a relationship that, same thing, wasn't necessarily the right placement for me. And I lost myself completely. My mom calls it my bubbly personality. I'm her happy-go-lucky ducky. And it was just gone. I didn't know who I was. I was work all day. I was work all night. I wasn't doing that 40-hour week. I was doing 40 hours in the office and continuing at home just to make this legacy that I felt I needed to make. But it wasn't put on by my parents. It wasn't put on by my employer. It wasn't put on by any exterior element. It was all just that internal, and that thought that if I don't live past 30, what they're going to be. And it honestly wasn't until this year this last couple of years, talking with people going through this COVID crisis and hearing other people talk about their mental health and all these things, and realizing that it's actually not rare for someone to think, especially if they have a bit of a young adult life, teenage years, that, oh, I'm not going to live past 30. And then they get stuck in that momentum of, I have this time period to make it worth it. And you forget about everything after that. And it really, there's a little bit of a shakeup for me. Back in 2018, I was in a car accident. It was not a crazy snow dump, but living up north in rural Canada, you get a little bit of snow every now and then. But I was heading in from my out of town home and hit a snowdrift, and it completely sucked my car into the ditch. And just due to where it was, the ice patches, everything like that, my car ended up rotating, barrel rolling, whatever description you want to use for it. But during the investigation after the fact, there was a 15-foot stretch where they essentially established that my vehicle was airborne. They cannot track where it was on the ground and the snow tracks, anything like this. There was a period where it's clearly there's tires, clearly there's no tires anymore. And looking back at it, looking at the police reports, everything like that, it became very prevalent to me, like, this was a rare occurrence of me walking away. I at the time I brushed it off. I was like, woo, drove into a ditch kind of thing, like all in that anxiety kind of brain, like just caught up in the moment, not letting it process at first, and didn't think anything of it until I start reading those reports. And I'm like, oh, most people don't walk away from something like this. This is why the paramedics and the firefighters were concerned that I was actually walking and talking and laughing. Like, all those pieces kind of came to, and very quickly, because I was in such a negative space, and now I'm finding out that this should have been a deadly car accident, my brain's going, well, clearly I was supposed to die. I thought I was going to die before I was 30, and this was where I thought I was going to die, and I didn't die. And I try not to dwell on the negative part of all this and potentially not get us flagged with or bad words or anything on Facebook and all that. But yeah, it was this moment of like, I don't know what to do anymore. My brain thought that this was it, and it wasn't it. And it was very much a 2-year period of me just trying to figure out who I was and kind of scrape off those layers of what I'd become and find that true me underneath again.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second. I'm interrupting. I had to go mom moment for a minute. My daughter has been home for like 2 weeks. Her bedroom is, and I'm getting frustrated, right? Passion, right? Right across the hall. I keep telling her, you have to keep it down. And she's just like screeching and giggling. And I don't want to tamp down her fun. I don't want to tamp down who she is and what she's doing. But 1 hour, I ask for 1 hour of quiet a day. And yeah, she's, and her sister, I literally just messaged her sister and said, can you go please make her be quiet? Because she's not. So I muted myself and I'm like, Haley, be quiet.
Mom podcasters. Got to do the double duty.
Right? So we all have those moments. I'm actually going to be doing an entire live on being an entrepreneur and the frustrations of being an entrepreneur and how that works. I'll be doing that. That's coming up. So watch for that episode. But talking about your situation, and one of the really big reasons why I wanted to do this episode was because you based from the time you first had this inclination that you were going to pass away at a certain age, you based your entire existence on that expiry date.
Yep.
Right. Now, most of us will sit here and go, well, I don't know. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I could live into my hundreds. We don't know. But you had this feeling that was going to happen. And the title of the show is Taking Control of Your Life. But the subtitle is Your Life Doesn't Define You. You define your life. You defined your life based on this outcome that you thought was going to happen. There are so many people in society, in humanity right now, who will base their life, their plans, their decisions, their emotions based on an outcome that has already happened. So based on a prior event, right? Yep. So example would be, oh, I've been in a bad relationship before. And we'll touch on that after. I've been on a bad relationship before. Now I'm terrified to get into another one. And you will hyper focus on those signs so that you don't make the same mistake. Instead of trusting that you got out in the first place, you have strength, right? And it becomes that hyper focus. Now, planning something in the future like yours, it's again that hyper focus. I need to do this, this, and this before this happens. but you don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. And yeah, it was completely like looking at it now, completely unrealistic. I had no like reason to believe it. It's not like I've got a medical family history and women in their 30s experience XYZ during this time frame or anything like that. It was just this, as my therapist has called it now, just a depressive thought that's associated with my anxiety and ADHD. And it was more of I just had to learn to manage those and understand that having those intrusive thoughts, it might not be that very specific for some people, but intrusive thoughts are an everyday part of life. It's looking at the scissors and going, "Ooh, I should poke something with those," or like it's just they're constantly going to be there. Unfortunately, it's the way our brains are. We think random things, but we don't necessarily react on them. But I completely had everything set that I need to do this all by 30. I need to find a relationship. I need to get married. I need to start and build a successful career in order to financially support all of this, and then have kids and financially support them and leave money and savings behind for them for this, as you said, expiration date that, just as normal expiration dates, are a little bit phony at times and don't necessarily mean anything. It's just something that my brain implemented at a very early age when my anxiety and my ADHD were running rampant. And at the time, there wasn't very many female ADHD studies. It was trying to figure out if it was anxiety or depression, because going into those teenage years, all those hormones get worked up. And so, yeah, my brain thought it was truth. I thought everyone experienced this, where you get this premonition of you're going to die by this point. And I remember going so hard in school and just high school and beyond. I am very aware I was labeled as a teacher's pet and just a keener and everything like that, because to the other people, yeah, I'm just being a brown noser. To me, I need to get my grades up to this. I need to get extra credit for this. I need to do this in order to better set myself up for post-secondary, so I can get the scholarship, so I can get onto the honor roll, all these pieces, so that I could then get a really successful internship and then a job. And it was interesting to see it all play out as if I had planned it and written this story out for me. Like, it was very almost spooky looking back at it now. It was, okay, I've gotten into my program at NAIT. Great. It's a 2-year program. The last 4 months are a field placement. Went up to Grand Prairie, was there for 2 months, didn't even finish the field placement before I was offered a job, and moved again. And it was just this go, 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 go. And I guess I never really had this realization that I didn't have to go, go, go quite as hard as I was. Like, I don't regret it at all. I see the amount of growth I've made.
Absolutely not.
I see all these amazing experiences I had, but it's also interesting kind of, yeah, getting a chance to take a step back and look back at it and go, I wonder how things would have changed if I didn't just jump at that opportunity. For example, there was a position, I was in Grand Prairie for my field placement. I got a job offer in Fort St. John, BC. And from there, it was within 2 days after accepting that offer, a position opened up at the station I was interning at. So I wouldn't have had to move had I waited 2 days, kind of thing. And it was all, it's a little bit of give and take. It's what if questions kind of thing, but it very much kind of startled me when I realized how fast I went for so long, and how much, even today, I don't necessarily think I took in during that time period. It was just such blinder focus that, yeah, I missed out on a lot of fun opportunities. I missed out on my young 20s and my bar star days, everything like that, that the 18, 19-year-olds, us Canadians getting to drink a little bit earlier than the Americans kind of thing. But I missed out on all those experiences. I did bars a couple times, but then I was like, this is a waste of my time. I'm going to do this instead. And took on extra shifts at work instead, and just drove myself into the ground of exhaustion, because I thought it was going to better me in the end and better my legacy. That, I mean, realistically, I'm still building my legacy. I haven't hit my 30th birthday yet, but I still have plenty of time to go after my 30th. Why I thought 30 was my end mark. It baffles me now looking at it.
So now everybody should know by now, I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm also a psychic, intuitive, medium, healer, all of those fun topics that we'll get into in later dates. But with that, I firmly believe, spiritual or non-spiritual, I believe that there's some things I'd love to point out about your life. And I don't know how spiritual you are or what you believe and don't believe. And none of this is to change your beliefs, but everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what we believe that reason is eventually shown. If you hadn't have had that moment of, I need to do this, this, and this before this expiration date, you wouldn't have pushed and you wouldn't have built the strength. You wouldn't be where you are today if it wasn't for that belief, right? Now, I wholeheartedly believe that was a premonition. I believe that a lot of our panic and anxiety is depending on the situation and depending on your past and depending on your individuality. I think a lot of people struggle with panic and anxiety who are actually spiritual in nature, don't understand it and haven't acknowledged it. And that could be empaths who, if you get around other people, you are physically taking on the emotions of other people. That's terrifying if you don't understand what that is or how to, cornerstone your own energy and differentiate. The same goes with mediums. So if I go out in public now, and I used to be I couldn't stand leaving my house. I was the partier, but I would get out in public and then it'd be like, I would feel like overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be the center of attention. And a lot of that relates now. But what ended up happening is I realized that as soon as I went out, all of these spirits that I wasn't acknowledging were trying to get my attention. And in trying to get my attention, they made me feel overwhelmed. Once I realized what it was, how to put those boundaries in place and say, hey, no, I don't want to talk to you when I'm out, then it's totally different. And I became more powerful because of it. But every situation that you experience, whether negative or positive, has a lesson for growth. I always say that negativity is the catalyst to positive growth. And if anybody uses that quote, that is my quote, please tag me in it. Let's Krechler. That's my quote. Negativity is the catalyst to positive growth, because out of every negative situation, depending on what you choose to do, depending on your mindset, and depending whether you flip that switch, you will eventually create something better out of that.
Yes.
Right? You create a better life, a better you, a more connected you. You take control when bad things happen.
Yeah, I found as well, like, you're learning something in those negative moments, whether it's directly about you, whether it's about something else or someone else. But for me, like, I look back at the relationship I was in, and I'm very aware now that some of those attributes of what made him who he was just don't line up with my morals, my values. And like, looking back at it now, it's kind of like, okay, well, I was young, I was in my early 20s, I was that college age, I was so insisting that, like, I need to find a guy and get married, and probably ignored some of those kind of check boxes that I had always said I wanted in that ideal partner, probably a few more than I should have. But very much so, I look back at that relationship and I don't hold any negative feelings. It's more of like how aware I am now as to what type of communication I need in a partner, and what kind of support I need, what kind of love language is best for me, and like all those little pieces. And now I'm in a beautiful relationship now, and it's so eye-opening to kind of see all those negative moments have turned into that learning opportunity. And now I handle stressful moments in my relationship much better, but more so, like, I've seen we rarely fight. I think we've had one fight our entire relationship kind of thing. And that was during a moving situation. So moving stressful enough, makes sense. But yeah, it's just the way we communicate. It's the way we have our drive for our own careers and that support for each other's careers. And it's such a different kind of relationship to what I had previously been putting myself in. And it makes so much sense now. Like being in that negative situation, that negative relationship that clearly wasn't benefiting my mental health and my overall health. And now that I step back and a couple years away from that and I'm in a healthy new relationship, it's eye-opening to see how much, like how these little differences really stack up over time and as a whole to make these individual people.
Yeah. I wrote a book, and I'm gonna talk to you about the book really quickly. And this will be my promo because I'm sponsoring the show. So this will be my mid episode promo. If you're watching, catching the live, watching the replay, listening to the podcast, please go like, subscribe, and follow on our various social media platforms, and go to our website, justalivetv.com, and sign up for our newsletter to get notified when we go live, what's upcoming, and any events or merchandise we have coming up, because we do, not telling you what, but we do. So I wrote a book, and I'm an identity coach, a Phoenix identity, which is why I said I would promo at this point. So I wrote this book, and as an identity coach, I don't just deal in individual identities. So I do individual coaching, I do group coaching, and I do couples coaching. And the reason I did that is because every one of those things starts with you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Every aspect of your life starts with your beliefs, starts with who you are, what you want, what your need to feel is. So I've been married 13 years and we've been together 14. I wrote this book based on something that I was seeing not only in myself, but also in society and humanity, where people were basing their relationships on status.
Yes.
On a need to, and I'll be doing this episode at some point, Disney movies. I grew up on Disney movies. I'm 38, grew up on Disney movies. Now, when we were younger, those Disney movies told us that we had to be with tall, dark, and handsome, Mr. Prince Charming, all of that. Those are horrible lessons, because that's not, I went through this Facebook group once, and it was like, what's your list of your ideal partner? And I'm like shaking my head, because all of these things are about the ideal partner. They have to look this way, and they have to act this way, and they have to have this, and they can't live with their parents, and they can't have children, or whatever the requirement was. And I'm like, that means nothing.
Yep.
I never thought that I would be with somebody who didn't have hair. Right? Like my husband's bald, he has no hair. And I mentioned this in a previous episode, he has alopecia. But at the same time, he has no like back or chest hair. And I'm just like, yes. Oh my God, yes. My mom used to date the hairiest men, and for me, not my taste. Thank you very much. Not my taste. Right. So I'm like, I just touch his arm and I'm just like, oh, it's just like just super soft. And I'm obsessed with soft things. I have 5 cats. Right. So, so I sit here and I wrote this book because every one of my past relationships taught me something.
Yeah.
They all taught me something. So all of my past relationships were stepping stones to get me where I am today with my husband. I had to go through those things. I had to learn how to be a good partner.
Yep.
I had to learn what I needed to feel from a partner.
Yes.
I needed to know how the give and take of a relationship. I had to know how to stand up for myself when I was cheated on. I had to know how to, not give all of myself to somebody else and be stepped on. That was Tall, Dark, and Handsome, by the way. Prince Charming, I was horrible to him. And I had to learn how I needed to be a partner, what I needed from a partner, and what I needed from a relationship itself. So all of these experiences give us lessons to take that control.
Absolutely. I
I'm
didn't
in
realize.
control of my part in our
Yes.
relationship. Relationships have three parts. There's my part, their part, and the relationship itself. It's like having a joint bank account. You each have to take money from each bank account and put it into that account to pay the bills.
Yep.
The relationship is the same way. Your needs, their needs, the relationship's needs. And it's combining all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
We're
for
going to
me, like
say
I
something.
didn't realize. Yeah, I just it didn't dawn on me that like every relationship isn't going to provide the same energy and provide like, I mean, you grow up, you start dating what, 14, 16, depends on what your household is, sometimes younger. I mean, I had the cousin who she was in preschool, kindergarten, and she had 5 boyfriends. So I mean, more power to her.
My daughter's talking to her boyfriend and she's 7.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, to each their own, right? And for me, I was like, really didn't start dating until like 16 kind of thing. But that relationship, like, I learned so much about what I needed out of a partner in that, but more so the kind of support I needed from a partner. Like, I need someone who's going to talk to me and not just play video games all the time, little things like that. And uh, the next like major relationship I had, it was more of what kind of energy I need in the relationship, and not just what they need from me, but what is this about for me. And for me, it's like it blew my mind to like being in my relationship now to see, for some reason my brain was like, we both can't be busy, one of us has to be the stable one, the pretty reliable one, and the other one can be busy. And now with me and my partner, he's in hospitality, I'm in media. They're two very demanding, very just go 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 kind of industries, and we thrive because we see this passion the other one has and we support it, and we build it up. And I know that he might not be able to be at every single event or opportunity I put on, and same goes for his opportunities and vice versa, but we know that we're still there cheering the other on. And for me, I look back at my past relationship, and for my ex's choice, by my ex's choice, he's not as ambitious. He's worked his career, he's reached a point, and he's in a comfortable position. He's doing his passion projects, his hobby projects on the side, but career wise, it's not a big focus for him. And I know that there's several people out there and around the world, there's probably hundreds, that they don't want to be a career driven in person. They want it to be passion. And that's great for me. It just so happens that my passion and career collide. So it works for me. I'm able to get that energy from my career and feel that passion and that place in my heart. It fills me up every day doing what I do. But I realized that, yeah, not everyone wants to be that go, go, go. And I felt so guilty. And looking at it now, like, I don't necessarily understand why I felt guilty, but it's definitely an eye-opening moment for me to see that, like, no, I felt guilty because I felt I couldn't be that individual he needed in a relationship because I was so focused on my career. I was so focused on the next step. I was just constant go, go, go that, yeah, we didn't necessarily have and never ending opportunities to hang out because I was so busy. Versus my partner and I now, we both know we're busy. So we set dedicated date nights. And it's little things that I've picked up kind of over the years that I'm like, oh, like my exes, I hold nothing against them. They taught me huge lessons. They allowed me to discover myself in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to kind of answer those questions for myself without those experiences. So I'm grateful for them for giving me the push or kind of giving me the boot that I needed to find that spark or find that drive. I know for my ex, my high school boyfriend, for example, like, he was the one who really pushed me to go for radio and kind of that broadcast digital career. And so I don't harbor any negative feelings because his push and helping me in those like high school diplomas, everything like that, was what I needed to get through that stage of my life. And it worked for that season. Just because we grew apart doesn't mean that he's an awful person. It just means that we ended up going down 2 separate paths, and that happens. It happens with friends, it happens with family, it happens with every relationship in your life.
In every aspect of your life.
Yes.
And that's the focal point of today, is taking control of your life. You have the right, the responsibility, and the ability to take control of your life. Sometimes, depending on the situation you're in, it's not as easy, and that takes time. And no, I'm the least judgmental person you will ever find. So however it works for you, right? Your ex wasn't career oriented. That's his life, and that's great, right? Do you, but you have the ability and the responsibility to take control of your life and do without feeling guilty, without, there's a difference between taking control of your life in a negative intent way and saying, I'm doing this with or without you, regardless of what you have to say. That's hurtful. But if you say, I really need to do this, if this hurts you, I'm sorry, that's not my intention, but I need to be authentic to myself. You should always be your number one priority in no matter any situation. I am my number one, my husband's number two, my children are number three, because when my children grow up, they're going to leave me. I'm okay with that. That's what I'm helping them learn to do, create their own lives. But I need to teach them that they have to put themselves first, while having the intent of love and compassion and sympathy and empathy towards others, right? They can't just be, I'm not even going to finish that sentence, but they can't, they can't be rude and have negative intent with that. But my husband, when my children leave, and if I'm still married by that point, knock on wood, because I plan on it. This is my life partner here. When my children grow up and they leave my house, it's just going to be him and I. If I don't put effort and put him before that relationship with my children, then who are we going to be when the kids are grown and left? We're not going to know who each other are. We're going to be left in a situation where it's like, oh, who are you?
Yeah, I heard, I can't remember exactly what the exact numbers is, but it's something like every 5 to 10 years you grow, you develop, your tastes change, your personality changes. So yeah, if you guys are focusing 100% on the kids, by the time that stage of your life happens, you might not even recognize the other person. You might have new hobbies, you might have new friends. Like, if you're not investing into it during that time, like it's understandable when you see those relationships that aren't able to stand after the kids move out, because they do become different people.
And that's why you're number one priority, because during that time, if you spend years craving out like you did, right? You spent years, 20 plus years, carving out this future, this legacy. You weren't focused on you. You were focused on the goal. You didn't focus on who you were, your identity, what truly mattered to you, what you truly needed, until it was woken up and you said, oh,
I'm not happy.
Change.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. It was such a shock, honestly, to kind of have this realization that I could do more for me. I don't have to be putting myself into this go, drive myself into the ground regime, because it was something that I started myself. Yes, it may be like 15, 20 years later, but it was me who initiated this. And so, yeah, after all those years of just going with the flow and this grind, it took me a little bit to step back and realize it was something I put on myself and not an external factor. Like, I had to change my own thought process in order to get out of that state and to actually move on and focus on me again, and focus on happiness and focus on healthiness.
Take control of your life, right?
Exactly.
You had to put yourself first to take control of your life. And that's the key. That's what people miss, is that your situations, you putting everything else above your needs created the relationship, created the job, created all of these things that weren't making you happy, because you weren't focusing on your needs. So when you take control of your life, you start focusing, what do I need? Who am I? First step, number one, first step for anybody. Who am I? And I will challenge everybody to do this. And this is my own coaching clients. First thing I do, who are you? Tell me who you are. 99% of the time, the response is, and I'm going to use my own, okay? 99% of the time, it's, oh, I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I'm an identity coach and a talk show host and a spiritual teacher. And I have 5 cats and a dog. And I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I love to go for walks. Do you know who I am?
No. Nothing that makes you tick or happy. And I think
you don't know my identity.
Those are those unique things that make everyone different. Like it's funny. Like now that me and my cousins and sisters are all kind of reaching that adult age, it's this realization is like, oh, we do look alike. We've got very strong genetics in our family, but each of us is our own unique person. Just because me and my sisters look like triplets at different ages of our lives, like my little sister's the fitness guru. She's the one who's off doing amazing rock climbing competitions and amazing trips to Nevada to experience it. My older sister, she's a theater professional and she's so talented and writes amazing stories. And her passion is looking into our Ukrainian history and culture and bringing some more of those stories to theater and educating through that. And it's very cool to see that in a little bit, and in a sense, all of our kind of journeys have all been storytelling in a sense, kind of based on our familial roots. But just because we look alike doesn't mean we're alike at all. And I think my grandma has always said it beautifully. Just because you're family doesn't mean you're necessarily your best friends. We have different opinions. We have different preferences. We have different tastes in music. My sisters think I'm crazy for liking country music, but it is what it is. I worked in country radio for 4 years. They can't get that out of me now. But we all know at the end of the day, like, these are my sisters. This is my blood. If something goes wrong, I call them. They're the first ones to answer the phone, or we go out for lunch when we're having a bad week kind of thing. But we know we're not going to see each other every single day because we don't necessarily have the same friends and the same activities and the same hobbies, because we are each unique and individual.
Yeah, that's true. Defining your life. Mm-hmm. And right, because we're talking about, again, taking control of your life, and your life doesn't define you, you define your life. Your feelings of who you are define the decisions you make and defines the situations you find yourself, and you make those decisions. Now, those are subconscious. They are not conscious decisions. So when I say you have created your relationship, whether your relationship is abusive or not, you cannot control whether somebody hits you. You cannot control somebody else's actions towards you. You cannot control their beliefs, their thoughts, their emotions. You are not in control of them, or you are not responsible for those. Mm-hmm. You can say, oh, you made me mad, which is why I hate you. No, they made themselves mad.
Exactly.
So when I say you created that situation, so for you, I'm going to use you as an example. I hope you don't mind.
Go for it.
Your unique situation, you were so hyper-focused on creating that end goal that you took whatever came.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think about, how is this person going to treat me? What do I need to feel? Because our relationships and our situations, even this show, and now I'll segue. This show, I don't like being on camera. I don't like hearing my own voice. I don't like photos of myself, but I started a talk show, and I am very vocal on the talk show, and I show up physically every day for all of you to see me. And I took control and said, this means more to me than the fear.
Mm-hmm.
I need to feel like I am helping humanity become better, happier, more more safe, more non-judgmental, more inclusive.
Yes.
Because I'm all about inclusivity. I'm trying to create a world like that. And my drive to feel that I am contributing to that is what makes the show. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. And this show wouldn't be here. And we wouldn't be touching people's lives and saying, you've got this. You're not alone. You're not, whatever it is that's going on in your life, you're not alone. You can change. Start with asking who you are. Start with asking who you are. Start asking yourself, what can I control? Right? I'm not saying blame yourself for the situation you're in. Absolutely not. Because again, those situations are subconsciously created. You don't walk around. Some people do. And I apologize if you do. And I feel for you if you do. If this is you, please reach out. But most people don't walk around and say, I don't deserve to be happy. I deserve to be beaten. I don't deserve to be told I'm beautiful. I don't deserve this. You don't consciously walk around thinking that.
No.
But subconsciously you do. So subconsciously you say, well, I'm lonely and I want to be in a relationship, or I have an end goal. So I need to be in a relationship to create that, like in your case. And then you don't think about what that person's bringing. It's a subconscious thing. What I do in my practice is I go through your subconscious and I make it conscious. Right? And then so if you're unhappy with your life, like where you were, right? You're unhappy with your life. And I say, okay, why? What don't you like about your life? You can either tell me, I don't know, or you can tell me, either way. Most of the time when you tell me, you don't actually know. So I apologize. Most times what ends up happening is we can have one little thing, whether it's something somebody said, something you experienced, something you witnessed, whatever that one little thing is, you created a belief based on that one little thing.
Yeah.
At that moment that you created that belief, whether it was a positive or a negative, at the moment that belief needed to be created. That was a protection. Eventually, that belief then becomes unaligned. You grow. Regardless of that belief, you grow and you change, and what you need changes, and you start to get stronger and smarter. That belief stays the same. And that belief is still screwing with you. Yeah. And it starts screwing with that. It starts screwing with that one aspect of your life. So say it's relationship, it'll screw with that. Then it'll start screwing with everything else because it's not changing. So when you get to a point that you're not happy with anything, that one belief is out of control. That's where I come in. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What are you unhappy about today? Let's talk about it. And we start having that conversation. And through that conversation, because I'm analytical as hell and it's irritating on my end, I love it. It's my superpower. But I sit there and I'm like, okay, what's going to cause that? And then I start asking questions. I will ask you 1,000 questions. And in those 1,000 questions, you're doing a connect the dots. So I'm known as the connect the dot person, where I will take your life, what makes you unhappy, the beliefs that you hold, your experiences. And let's say you have a connect the dot in front of you. Normally they're numbered. And you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your connect the dots aren't numbered. They're all over the place because of you have 20 years of experiences. How many seconds do we have in a day? And then add times that by 365 days and however many years. And you've now got a ton of dots.
Yeah.
And so I have to go in and I go, okay, that one. Yep, that one. And then that one. And then that one. And I find the cause. So you said you've been to therapy. 90% of my clients have been to counseling. 90%, at least counseling. And this thing on my shirt is really irritating me. Anyway, 99% of my clients have been in counseling, and they say counseling helps. Therapy, psychiatry, counseling, it all helps. And I will never judge anybody who does it, nor the people who practice it. Totally great. I encourage it. But I find that for my clients specifically, they've done work. They've done a ton of work. And the counseling tells them, okay, in the moment, do this. In the moment, do this. In the moment, do this. Counseling is like if you have a cold, or no, let's not even say a cold. If you have an infection, right? And let's say you have symptoms of that infection. So you go to the pharmacy and you grab medication that is going to numb those symptoms, right? That's counseling.
Yeah.
Then you get to me. I'm the antibiotic. I go in there. I grab whatever is not working. I say, this is what, like this, does this look like the issue? And you're like, really? Like, I never thought of that. And I'm like, I know. So how are we taking this, busting it all up and lighting it on fire and changing it into this?
I love that
right?
analogy too.
And that's, I just completely, you talk about branding. I just completely rebranded my company, Phoenix Identity. It was Melissa Krechler Identity Coaching. Now it's a Phoenix Identity, because it's light it all up, burn.
Yeah.
Not literally, please people, not literally. You just, when a Phoenix is not happy, and I said this on yesterday's video, because it is so impactful. When a Phoenix is not happy with its life anymore, it will set itself on fire, burn everything to the ground, and then say, oh, I'm still a Phoenix, reclaim its identity, take control of its life, and recreate something. You have that power. Everybody has that power to say, this is not working. I don't like this. I want this. Let's do it. You all instinctively, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually have that power within yourself. You either don't have the confidence, you don't have the knowledge, or you don't have the ability to understand what's creating it. And that's where somebody like me comes in, where it's like, you know, this is not okay. We need to fix this or change this, right? And there's nothing wrong with you. I think this is if you don't take anything away from this video, whoever is watching, catching the replay, listening to the podcast, you are not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just not aligned. You're not in control. You're not expressing. You're not being yourself. That's what has to change.
I mentioned a little bit earlier on that I genuinely didn't realize that other people have the same thought of, I'm not going to live past X age. And it was, honestly, I was talking to my father, and he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease 40, 50 years ago now, give or take. And like, he was 18. So yeah, 40 years ago, trying to do math on the fly. Sorry, Dad, I know you're not that old. But he was 18, 19 kind of era. And he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease for the first time. And his doctor at the time told him, it's not likely you're going to live past 40. And he went with that he's probably not going to live past 40. And he has, at that point, he hadn't had kids yet. But yeah, he went hard. He had to find all of his passions. At the time, he was just starting his culinary career. Shortly after he started the family, had the 3 girls that probably were the reason he lost all of his hair. We'll admit it. But he switched careers up, went into automotive because that was another passion of his. And he wanted to spend more time with us because culinary is not necessarily the easiest schedule to keep. And so he kind of kept changing, because in his brain, he's got 40 years. He's got to absorb all this time with his kids. And now he feels so grateful to be past 40. And it's it blew my mind that me and him were essentially going through this same process at the same time, and the same kind of self-discovery of, you're not stuck with this expiration date, this deadline that you, whether it's for myself, I set it for myself, for him, it was a doctor. For a friend of mine, it was her reckless partying and drinking and drug abuse in her teenage and into young adult years. She just assumed she wasn't going to live past 28, 30 as well. And it was this moment for me. It's like, oh, other people feel this. Like, and this needs to be talked about, that just because there is an expiry date, it doesn't mean it's 100% correct. You still have that ability to just, as you said, burn everything down and build back up. For me, that was after the breakup with my ex. At the beginning of COVID, there was layoffs that went around across the world. I experienced that, and being on CERB and a couple other things, I had this moment of, I can't be in Fort St. John anymore. I need to be in Edmonton. I need to be with my family. I need to be in a situation that gives me joy again. And I knew that where I wasn't feeling it. And my brain was saying, you gotta leave, you gotta leave, you gotta leave. And it just, as you said, everything happens for a reason. I had gone through a breakup. I'd been laid off. I had, my bills were put on hold, so I wasn't having to deal with that much outgoing money in situations. So I had a little bit of extra money to afford a moving truck, all those pieces. And I moved to Edmonton, and 2 years later, I honestly can't believe that this is where I'm at now. And that all of this hurt and pain and frustration and anxiety was only like 2.5 years ago. Like, that blows my mind, that one little switch like that, one of those life moments, can completely turn something around for someone.
And what was the cause of that?
What was the cause? I think the layoff was probably the final one for me.
No, like, you took control.
Oh yeah. I finally went, like, I got to do what my heart is telling me to do. I need to, like, my heart is saying, you can't stay in this town. You got to be closer to family. At that time as well, my dad with Crohn's disease, he wasn't able to do grocery shopping. He needed a daughter to come support him and all those pieces. And it was just, I need to do this. I am doing this. And honestly, I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in 4 years, because it was just go from, I guess, probably longer than 4 years. I probably just, my brain just says 4 years, but I look back and it's like, oh, I've been in this industry for 8 years now, so I know it's more than 4.
So you went from drowning and overwhelmed to taking control of your life.
Yeah.
Where are you now? What's happened since then?
I think for me, some of those big moments was, I really appreciated my value as a human being again. I didn't necessarily realize how much of an impact that minor action would be. I was looking at jobs that I felt were a value to me, and I wasn't just looking at jobs because I need to work and I need to do XYZ. I was looking at jobs that I was passionate about. I was looking at, like, companies that had similar values to me. With a relationship, the same thing. Like, I found a man who, we have the same values, we have that drive, we have similar virtues and passions, and it's so uplifting to be able to kind of focus on my value and who I am as a person and just a human, and realize that, no, I don't need to just take whatever comes my way because I need to accomplish XYZ. I can look at this, but feel, it's not the right fit for me. I love the idea, whether maybe it's a volunteer opportunity or a fundraising opportunity, whatever it is, like, I will look at it and actually, like, take the time to assess it and see if, like, is this something I feel I can take on right now? Is this something that's going to benefit me? Is this something that's going to make me happy? And if it's not something that I feel is going to be successful, or if it's something perhaps that the amount of work I need to put into it is going to be more than it's worth, and my mental health's going to decline, anything like that. I've got those kind of checks I go through before I take on new projects, and I'm able to focus on, what makes me happy. I'm able to dedicate Thursday evenings to date night with my partner. Like, we're able to balance him doing private events and me getting to do pop-ups and all those kind of things, because I'm actually focusing on me and what makes me go.
So total 360. And now it's control, confidence, self-love, and general just happiness.
Yeah.
With your life.
I think confidence is huge. Like, I look at the shell of a human, of a girl that I used to be in high school. You said that someone will say something and that'll turn into that little voice in the back of your head for years and years and impact all those dots. For me, it was like, I can pinpoint it back to the day where I came to junior high late. Someone had broken into my locker and vandalized all my stuff, saying that I was a wannabe. I was just a try hard, all those kind of nasty things. And at that point, I knew I was a keener. Like, I have no shame in that, but that's who I am. And now I look at it and it's like, but that's me. You like it or you don't. Hi. Like, I'm goofy. Yeah. I'm quirky. My partner calls me like a Disney princess on steroids most days. Like, I am that outgoing, that bubbly. And of course there's going to be the hard days. Depression, anxiety don't disappear overnight, but at least now I'm able to go, but this is who I am. I know I'm this quirky, bubbly, just outgoing person. I know I'm over the top for some people, and I don't apologize for who I am. I understand that some people, we might not be a great friendship or relationship because I clash with how their personality is, but I don't hold it against them. I don't hold it against me. This is who I am, and I'm proud of it.
Yep. Control, all about that beautiful control. And that's the thing, depression, anxiety, panic, those don't have to control you.
No.
We as human beings, and I think humanity as a whole needs to understand this, we as human beings are supposed to feel negativity. We're supposed to feel down at times. We're supposed to feel sad. We're supposed to have days like I had on Saturday and Sunday where I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to relax and read for like the whole weekend. And I said, you know what, I'm going to. And other than a handful of things, that's what I did. I took time for me. And we're supposed to feel those things because that's how we take our control. That's how we honor every aspect of who we are. And so I think that's ridiculously important. Is there anything you would like to share on control, on taking control of your life? What would you like? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think kind of just going off what you said, like being able to find your voice again, like it's huge. Like it's not just, those little things of, I'm going to get the job, I'm going to get this. It's finding your voice against your depression, anxiety. Like, I growing up, like I think I was diagnosed at 16 with anxiety, and I felt like that was who I was for the rest of my life, this chick with anxiety. And I didn't understand that these episodes are my body trying to tell me what I need, and not necessarily my body like rejecting reality, rejecting me. Like my brain's like, all these episodes and panic attacks, everything like that, it's not me doing something wrong. It's I need to listen to what my body is trying to tell me, because this is how my body tells me. Yes. So as you said, maybe it's starting to feel burnt out. Okay, I need to take a me day. So a Saturday, it's spa day, and like getting the bubble bath out, getting the whole like face mask, the whole bougie experience, and making it a me day and making sure I take that time to care for myself. Because at the end of the day, taking that control and going, okay, I'm listening to my body, I'm listening to my brain. I acknowledge that, this situation or the amount of work I've done this week is impacting me. And I've seen a lot of just success in myself and just understanding in myself when I go, I'm reacting to something. What am I reacting to? And then kind of doing, as you said, like connecting those dots, figuring out what was the initial trigger for this panic attack or this depressive state. What was it that set me off, so I can use that and learn better next time.
Yeah. I have a PDF and I should share it, and I'll share it in the comments when we're done, on embracing your positivity. And the number one step, number one, is acknowledging how you feel.
Yeah.
It's not rejecting it or pushing it aside or tamping it down. It's acknowledging how you feel. And I'll share that in the comments once we're done. But it is so transformative. And I love your before and after, right? Because that is what everybody aspires to. If you want to create a life that you love, a life where you're happy and healthy and confident and feeling like you're expressing who you truly are, it starts by taking control, whether that control is one step or a small step or a large step. It's taking control and saying, I got this. It's taking control and hiring somebody like me to come in and help you walk step by step through that process. One of the main things that I promote in my own business, whether it be the spiritual teaching or the identity coaching, is it's your journey. I don't give you do this, do that. I do in some respects. Obviously, there's homework and stuff to do, but for the most part, it's how do you feel?
Yeah.
What do you want to create? Who are you? I want you to answer the questions. I want you to find those answers. There are times where I'll sit there and I'll be like, hey, have you thought of it this way? And I'll give you the answer that way. Right? Because then it's not me creating that answer. It's me asking you, is that the answer? Indirectly, right? Because I want people to be confident in themselves, to know that they're in control. And that starts by accepting who you are.
Yes. And I think control, it doesn't have to be like a specific action. Like it doesn't have to be like, I need to control my finances in my house. Like if your partner's controlling, sure, whatever. Like control can be even just such the minor step of like, I look at my own experience when I was younger, my parents they see something's wrong with me. They put me through child therapy, those kind of things. And I hated it. Oh my God. I went kicking and screaming. Like it wasn't like if I went and it wasn't dramatic, something was wrong. Like they bounced me around to different practitioners. Like it was years of them fighting me for this. And it wasn't until I took that step myself and said, I'm ready to start getting help, to start doing therapy, to start addressing this, that it made the difference. Like maybe some parents will take something away from this. If your kid's not ready, they're not ready. But you like that individual has to be willing to say, I am going to take this step. I am taking control. And it could just be that. It could just be controlling that decision of I'm ready to go to therapy. I'm ready to make this career move. I'm ready to XYZ. And it's interesting for me because I remember when I was a kid, I was in young teenager kind of age. Like when I wasn't being referred to as a keener, I was referred to as a Debbie Downer. And like, I was just, I hated everything. I hated me. I hated my surroundings. I hated what I had to do every day, like going to school, going to my job. Like I was miserable constantly. And
that's two things.
Yeah.
That's a lack in knowledge of who you are.
Yep.
That's a lack of control. And that's a lack of living for you. So three things. But that was a lack of living for you. And
yeah,
that's my daughters. I love long hair. I don't have short hair. I will not have short hair. While it looks great on other people, I'm not comfortable with it. This is as short as my hair gets. I just had it cut, and I usually grow it halfway down to my butt, if not all the way down to my butt. I like long hair.
Hair care secrets, but that's another day.
My daughters, one has ringlet curls, one has straight, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting because I was born with the straight wavy hair like my one daughter. And then my other daughter, I permed my hair when I was 10. And now I washed my hair today and it twirls, right?
Yep.
And so not as much as hers, but it twirls. I also use stuff that straightens it. So,
Yeah.
But both of them, one got a bob and one got a pixie cut the other day or a few weeks ago. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sitting there and I'm the mom that loves long hair. And I'm just like, oh my God, what are you doing? But I'm like, it's
Don't
your
worry,
hair.
my mom was the same way.
Your hair. No, and I'm just like, no. And I didn't. I sat there and I said, what do you want to do? It's your hair. I'm not dyeing it. That's the only thing. I am not dyeing it and I'm not perming it. You are 8 and 12. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but
not quite yet.
I said, whatever you want to do, however you want to cut it. If you don't like it, it's going to grow back. So do what you need to do. I'm okay. You want to shave it, shave it. I don't care. Just do what you need to do. And that's self-expression, right? I had to take out my own personal beliefs and desires and be like, you do you.
Oh, totally.
Who is the you? And both of them love their hair.
Oh.
And so I was like, it even changed the way they felt about themselves. And that's what we have to do. That's taking control. Even as a mom, doing that for my children, letting them take control of that.
Absolutely. And they're at that age where I can only assume that they're going to be like experiencing different things. They're going to be seeing different styles, and they're starting to get into that age where they're experimenting with how they want to dress, the colors they like, the prints on their t-shirts. I know there's so many different things for fashion, and I'm not a fashion person, but like they're going into that age where they want to figure out who they are. And it's definitely that first kind of step, that first process of, okay, I've got my own thoughts now. Like, I'm dressing myself in the morning. Like, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And it is what is staring back at me in the mirror, reflecting what I'm putting out there. And if, getting a short hair, getting a pixie cut, like, if that's what makes them confident and they're like, this is me, this, like, I got this haircut, like, for myself, like, I cut my hair and I'm like, I look like my mom, but I should have done this 20 years ago. Like, it's a huge, like, I'm like, this makes sense. This is who I am. This is who I felt I've been. I just didn't ever have the courage myself to do it.
No, for sure. All right. Well, we are quite past the 1 hour mark, which is okay. Not a problem here. All right. Well, anybody watching, I would welcome you to go in the description of this video podcast or replay, whichever you're watching or listening to. My contact information, as well as Sydney's contact information, is in the description. You can contact her to get involved with some marketing and media if you'd like to. With myself, you can get in touch with me for the show at www.justalivetv. Please go and like and follow the show, subscribe to our newsletter on whatever platform you are active on. We do have accounts on multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. This episode is sponsored by a Phoenix Identity, which just happens to be my identity coaching business. I take you through burning up what no longer serves you, lighting it up on fire, reclaiming to your identity, taking control of your life, and recreating it for you your way. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for joining me today. I love talking about taking control and identity, everything along those topics. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I'm so honored that a Canadian podcast and show was the one who got to get the story out of me first. But especially in this last year, I've said it a couple of times. Like, it's really dawned on me how important it is to let people know that I went through the same thing, and I felt those feelings too, because we're not alone. You don't have to be that gloom and doom. Like, you can burn everything up and be the pep in your step and the happy-go-lucky ducky that I've founded myself again, kind of thing. But you're not alone. At the end of the day, there's family members. Like, it's talking to anyone and everyone and anyone who is your support.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again, Just a Family. And for some reason, we're frozen.
Oh,
I think just on my end. That's probably my children. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching Just a Family. If you would like to be a guest on the show, if you would like a featured topic, or if you would like to sponsor the show, please reach out to me at www.justalivetv.com and follow us on our social media platforms. As for everybody, have a wonderful day, lots of love, and I will see you on the next